is it, Mr. Ogilvy? I love it.
You're tired. At your age? I was standing at this desk 30 years before you were born, man. You don't see me slightly. So, stand on your dignity.
Aye. But why do we have to stand all day, for goodness sake?
So here we have a description of the process. First you harvest the jute, retting, stripping and washing, and then you hang it up to dry, like laundry. And here is what the plant actually looks like. This is made of jute. A bale, it's a bale. Those are the sounds of the jute workers grunting while doing their work that we get to hear. Here we have some more jute. So here we have a map of the different uses of jute over the world, the places it was shipped to. Here we have Dundee, of course, and all the routes that the ships would go. So for example, it was made into sacks to transfer coffee beans from Brazil all around the world. Brazil was big in coffee in that era, and still is, in fact. And here we have a summary of why Dundee got to be the jute creating capital of the world. Because again, it's kind of odd how they took plants from Asia and brought them to here in order to produce it here. So one of the answers would be that there was an abundance of whale oil that was made for softening the jute and making the work more approachable. And basically many things that she said as well. Flax supplies became unreliable and expensive because they used to come from the Baltics, and wartime blockades closed the Baltic ports. I guess I'll just leave this up for a second, and then you can pause it if you want to read all of the reasons. So now let's keep going. Over here we have the change to mechanization, and this basically speaks of the Industrial Revolution, where things turned from being made by hand into being made by machines in big factories. And here we have some of the instruments that we use. For example, the spinning wheel, which speeded up the production of yarn. Over there we have a fine lady demonstrating. Let me flash some light on her. There you go. So here we have a bunch of machines that were used in creating the fiber of jute into fabric, the different ones, but I'm not going to go through the whole process because it's batching, softening, carding, drawing, roving, spinning, winding, beaming, weaving, finishing. I'm just going to tell you that the jute came all stuck together, and when it came from India in order to have more room for fitting jute in the ships. And then they would soften it with whale oil. And that's why when the nice lady in the beginning was telling me about the whaling, she said unfortunately, because indeed in order to get whale oil, people would kill whales. So that kind of sucked. And here in this phone, we have some horror stories from the factory days, which are actually really hard not to laugh at because of the strong Scottish accent, but they were describing things such as women losing their fingers, and being burnt from the fires, and also people dying in these factories. People had to be very involved with their hands, and it could be very dangerous. Like, look at this fine maiden, and see how she could have lost a finger or two. Okay, I found a phone that I think is a bit broken because you can hear it very loud. And this is what I meant when I said they have funny accents. But what did they do? They went home and they gave the baby a bottle? Sorry, I had to. So there's a cool game here that you get to guess the country to which jute was transported according to the music. So can you guess this one? So jute was actually, if you can tell or not, also used in Jamaica because of the British colonies at the time. It was used to transport huge sugar corp, and jute sacks were used for the transportation. Do you know who actually wrote the poem?
I don't actually. I just hired the room from here, so I don't really know much about the museum.
Oh, okay.
I'm afraid, but I'm sure they would tell you if you ask in the cafe.
Yeah. This is like, are you taking care of the kids that go to the
No, so
museum?
his mum's in there. We just I run classes for adults and children, for preschool children.
Oh, sweet.
So we do sort of storytelling and learning phonic sounds of the letters and things like that, all through play.
Okay, I'll leave you to it then.
Yeah, we're just finishing up anyway.
Okay.
So are you at Dundee Uni or?
No, I'm not. I'm just visiting a friend who's Dundee Uni.
Okay, where are you
Yeah.
from, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm from Israel.
Okay,
Yeah.
so is this your first visit to Scotland?
No, I was visiting that same friend 2 years ago. So
All right, okay, so
Yeah.
you know, right.
yeah, thank you.
So this is the original part of this was the high mill, this was actually built in 1833. So this is the oldest part. And then when the people who had this was linen producing, they decided to go into jute and they built the rest of it. So
Yeah.
there above the door,
Yeah, that's the.
that's the very poem. And if you go in, actually, now this is the original wheat. Listen, just can you hear that?
Yeah. Wow.
So, and there's a verse in that was actually quoted in the American Senate, and to me, it's one of the most pertinent lines in any song. It says, "Them that work the hardest," it's done in Scots, "are aye the least provided," and it's true. The people that work the hardest get the least. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's
It's the
pretty
nature
much-
of capitalism.
It's the nature of capitalism. So this was the old. This would be where the linen was, and then the jute machines were in here. So
So this is where 500 workers
possibly,
came,
yeah, could have worked here.
more or less.
Yes.
Yeah.
This was, of course, originally this was floored, but when it was all renovated, they kept it like this, partly to house this machine,
Yeah.
Bolton Watt steam engine. We don't let everybody come around here, but
Oh, thank
no,
you.
no, you're interested. No, it's okay. I'm not put on. It's the Bolton Watt steam engine, which started working in Dundee in 1802 and worked until 1898. So to accommodate that, the floors were kept off. But
Right.
so.
I'll definitely read more about
Oh, Mary
Margaret.
Brooksbank, yeah, she's worth. She's definitely worth a lot more attention.
Yeah.
She's a hero of mine.
What's funny about that poem is that nothing changed. You
No,
know?
nothing changes.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to see this running?
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Kieran.
That's alright.
Did you have any relatives that worked?
I didn't, but I was brought up beside the biggest jute mill in Europe. So every day these people would come out. 500 of them worked in it. So this is the Bolton Watt. This was involved in the linen production, and this is one of. There's only 5 left in the world, I think, isn't it, Kieran?
Oh wow.
And that's the noise it would have made. It wouldn't have made much more noise than that.
Not too bad.
It's yeah,
Yeah.
Running like a dream.
it is indeed.
One feature we've removed is see these arms that are rocking up and down. The valves, they let the steam in the top
Yeah.
and bottom of the cylinder to push it up and down. So when this was actually working, they would lock for about 10 seconds like a grandfather clock, and then they'd drop, and that's what the big lead weights were for. So they would drop and the leather belts would act as a kind of shock absorber. But the problem is, without steam in the cylinder, there's nothing to kind of cushion it.
Yeah.
So you're basically just like whacking it with a hammer every time. So we took that feature away, so they just rock up and down now, and you get the idea of how it kind of works. But in theory, when it was a steam engine, they would lock for about 10 seconds, and then you'd be getting this clanking noise as they both go up and down.
Yeah. That's why it operates a lot quieter.
Yes,
as
yes.
of now, yeah.
Well, that and the maintenance.
Yeah, yes. If you just come round here, these are the remnants of. You can see the remnants of the belts
Yeah.
and the wheels that would have driven the looms. It would be attached to the steam engines next door. Don't ask me any more technical than that.
No, it's okay.
Although I'm a guide here, I don't know about the technical thing of this. So,
Do you know who were the engineers that invented this?
well, this was James Watt and Matthew Bolton. James Watt was the guy who gave us steam.
Yes.
Scottish, of course.
Yeah, Matthew Bolton was the financier, James Watt was the engineer, so that's why Matthew came first. You know, he paid the bills for
He
everything.
paid the bills, yes.
Oh, okay.
So it was Scottish engineers who've given us a huge amount, but they gave us the steam, so thanks to them.
Yeah.
I think they managed to modify these because they were rather large, as you can imagine.
Yeah, this would have done about 15 horsepower, so about the same as your wee push lawnmower for about 3 tons of coal a day. So, you know, an efficiency of about 15% of the coal you put in comes out as power, you know. But there's some really clever features. You've got the gears here. They're the Sun and Planet gears. So the reason they look quite complicated is back in 1801, it's just a simple piece of steel was copyrighted. It was had a patent on it. So we had to get around copyright infringement. So we came up with this instead. And you can see the bit of wood behind it is basically the crank. And you have these 2 gears going around each other. So the flywheel, the big wheel at the back, actually spins twice as fast as the crank at the front. And so they kept that for decades after because it was more momentum in the engine, you know. And then the other really cool bit that every beam engine after used is the Watt's parallel motion. So the biggest problem with a beam engine is it's doing a big pivot like this. And if you put your piston on the end, it would be doing that as well. So you've got this bracket here, and you can see when the beam comes down, it can kick out the way. And it lets the piston go perfectly up and down, and then it straightens back up and it kicks out the other way. And every engine after, whether it was a Bolton and Watt or not, had to use that technology, you know, so really revolutionary. So there's only 5 of these left in Britain.
Right.
So, and 2 of them are up in Scotland.
Yeah, they say Scottish engineers had a major impact on the Industrial Revolution.
Oh, yes.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely. Oh, golly, yes. And on medicine, were a huge influence. In fact, was it Jeremy Clarkson said? The Scots have invented more than any other nation in the world.
Wow, I didn't know that.
If you think about, like, we gave the world anaesthetics, antiseptics, penicillin, all this, your road surfaces, bicycle tyres,
You
anything.
better start eating your porridge.
Yes, it gets you everywhere. So, anyway, I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, it was. Thank you very much. Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
No worries. Enjoy the rest of your visit.
Thank you.
So how did you come to hear about the Mill song?
I just saw it.
All right.
Yeah, I
And
just
it
saw it.
resonated with you.
It seemed like good poetry, and I like poetry, so I thought I would ask.
Well, you've got yourself on a very good path now because you will find an awful lot more about her. I'm involved, we're doing a big Dundee tapestry and we're doing a big bit about Mary Brooksbank. She's so important to Dundee.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people, at her time, people didn't maybe give her the credit that she should, like a lot of people, that she should get. So she's been remembered. It'd be good if you...
Yeah, I will read out the poem in the video. So the nice lady really wanted me to mention Mary Brooksbank in the video, who was a lady that actually worked in the jute mills, but she was also a songwriter, a fighter for women's rights and equality, who was actually jailed 3 times due to her political beliefs. So Mary Brooksbank actually wrote a song about her time working in the jute mills, and that is the song that was on the entrance there that she mentioned, that was quoted. So let me read out a small part of the song to honor the lady's wish. I don't know her name actually, the lady that I talked to 2 seconds ago. Oh dear me, the world is ill divided. Them that works the hardest are the least provided. I maun bide contented, dark days or fine, for there's nae much pleasure living a fen 10 and 9.